Hey now, what's up everybody? Checking this video out. This video is the Year in Wrestling 1996 Part 6, I believe. Hopefully I'm not wrong about what part this is. But this is the last video I'm doing on 1996. I'm going to talk about two of the very last pay-per-view events from the WWF in December and WCW Starrcade. And then I'll talk about some of the Pro Wrestling Illustrated winners of the year for 96. First, I'm going to kick it off talking about In Your House, number 12. Took place on December 15th, 96 from West Palm Beach, Florida. Up first, the first match on the pay-per-view was Flash Funk defeating Leif Cassidy. Leif Cassidy was Al Snow, just before he got the Al Snow name. And Flash Funk, is everybody that was a fan back then knows, Flash Funk was Too Cold Scorpio. But WWF had to decide to give him a lame ass. He looked like a goddamn pimp. A lame ass Flash Funk gimmick. It was pretty awful. Anyways, Flash Funk defeats Leif Cassidy. Up next was the World Tag Team Champions. Owen Hart and the British Bulldog defeated and retained their tag team titles. They defeated the New Diesel and the New Razor Ramon. The New Razor Ramon, I believe, was an indie worker. And he did look pretty much like Razor Ramon, just a little bit fatter. And Kevin Nash, not Kevin Nash, but the fake Diesel was Kane. And WWF had Kane under contract because he was Isaac Yankem earlier, and they decided to use him as a fake Diesel because he was about just as tall as Kevin Nash. Up next, Mark Merrow defeated Intercontinental Champion Hunter Hearst Helmsley by countout after Goldust interfered. The Undertaker defeated the Executioner in an Armageddon match. I don't know what the hell an Armageddon match is. All I know is it was like a street fight. And the main event was the WWF Championship on the line. Bret Hart took on Psycho Sid. Psycho Sid was the champion going into this pay-per-view. Psycho Sid would defeat Bret Hart to retain the world title, and then a month later at the Royal Rumble 97, Psycho Sid would lose his title to Shawn Michaels. So he only got a 2-month title run, but then Sid would win it right back in February on a Monday Night Raw in 97. So in 97 you had a lot of title changes, world title changes in the WWF. You probably had too many. I mean, the longest run in 97 was by The Undertaker, which he only held it about 4 or 5 months. He held it from March until SummerSlam, until August. So that was In Your House from December 96, the last WWF pay-per-view of the year. It was not a very good show. The only thing that is worth watching is Sid versus Bret on the entire In Your House December 96 pay-per-view. Now I'm going to talk about WCW Starrcade 96. It took place in Nashville, Tennessee on December 29th, 96. The Ultimo Dragon. Some people like to call WCW, start calling him the Ultimate Dragon, I think. Anyways, I like to call him Ultimo Dragon. Ultimo Dragon defeated the Cruiserweight Champion Dean Malenko to win the Cruiserweight title. And Ultimo Dragon, at this point, he held 9 different titles from around the world in different countries and different promotions. Up next was a Japanese women's match, and I cannot pronounce their names. I'm sorry about that. Terry Hioki with Sonny Ono and Kazuki Sasaki. That was a dude. She defeated Medusa in the finals of the tournament to crown a new WCW Women's Champion, and WCW would not utilize and start a women's division, so it's pretty pointless to start and have a women's title because it was never ever defended after Starrcade. It's probably defended once or twice, and it was just pointless. Nobody cared about having a women's title in WCW, and obviously WCW didn't care about the women's title because they never utilized any women. They never brought in anybody else. The only person they had was Medusa that could wrestle. So very pointless and stupid for WCW to create a women's championship because they didn't care about a women's division, and they didn't care to even defend the title on Nitros or any other pay-per-views. Up next was Jushin Thunder Liger taking on Rey Mysterio Jr. This was a dream match for a lot of fans to watch. It was fucking awesome. I'm a big fan of Jushin Thunder Liger. The guy's a legend. I'm looking forward to seeing the guy at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. Jushin Thunder Liger will make his first ever WWE appearance on the network for just $9.99, people. Order it if you don't have it. Unless you're broke as fuck and you can't afford $9.99, then obviously you can order it. And you can't afford just $9.99. Anyways, Jushin Thunder Liger defeats Rey Mysterio Jr. and it was a good match. It could have been better, but it was good enough. Jeff Jarrett defeated Chris Benoit. World Tag Team Champions, the Outsiders, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, defeated the Faces of Fear, the Barbarian and Meng, to retain the WCW World Tag Team titles. Eddie Guerrero defeated Diamond Dallas Page. They always had good matches, one-on-one with each other. And that match where Eddie defeated DDP was the finals of a tournament for the vacated U.S. title. And the NWO member 6 interfered in that match between Eddie and DDP. Or Scott Hall and Kevin Nash and 6 all interfered after Eddie won. The Giant, Lex Luger, defeated the Giant after Nick, Patrick, 6, and Sting all interfered. And in the main event, the rematch for the war to settle the score from 1985, I think, was the war to settle the score. Maybe it was 84. I forget. But it was the war to settle the score was before WrestleMania 1 between Rowdy Piper and Hulk Hogan. This was at least 9 years later after Piper and Hogan first feuded and had their first match in the WWF. This was 96. This was Starrcade. This was also WCW. And a lot of people in the crowd, a lot of fans were really excited to see this Piper versus Hogan matchup. It was a rematch from the WrestleMania 1. They were in a tag match, but they were still against each other. So it was a WrestleMania 1 and War to Settle the Score rematch. It was Rowdy Piper taking on Hollywood Hawk Hogan, and the WCW World title was not on the line. It was a non-title matchup. And Rowdy Piper would defeat Hollywood Hawk Hogan in a non-title match. And that was pretty damn shocking at the time, because Hogan did not lose like ever in WCW. Hogan never lost, basically. I don't think he lost at all. His entire WCW run up until Starrcade 96, I don't think Hogan lost a match. He may have lost a match by countout on a Nitro, probably lost by countout or disqualification, but not by pinfall. And that was Hulk Hogan losing at Starrcade 96 was Hogan's first clean loss since WrestleMania 6 in 1990, and it was a non-title match, and Hogan lost to the sleeper hold. After the match, Hogan, Hall, and Kevin Nash exchanged angry words with the Giant, who failed to attempt to chokeslam Rowdy Piper during the match. So the NWO was pissed at the Giant for dropping the ball and fucking up and not costing Rowdy Piper the match against Hollywood Hogan. I enjoyed Starrcade 96. I thought it was a great pay-per-view event. At least two or three or four matches on the show were entertaining. It was cool to see Ultimo Dragon win the Cruiserweight title. It was cool to see Liger versus Rey Mysterio. It was also awesome to see Piper versus Hogan again. And it was great to see Eddie versus DDP. So that was Starrcade, the last pay-per-view event of 1996. Kicking off in 1997, you had WCW run 12 pay-per-views in the year 97. WWF also did, as they ran 12 in 96. And then you had ECW coming to the pay-per-view world, and put on their first pay-per-view in April of 97 called Barely Legal. And then they put on another pay-per-view in August called Hardcore Heaven. And then ECW finally, to end the year out in November, they had their November to Remember 97 pay-per-view event. So you had three. ECW started getting known way more in 97 because they appeared on Monday Night Raw. And WWF was promoting ECW and promoting their first pay-per-view event. They also promoted their second pay-per-view, Hardcore Heaven, because ECW talent and Paul Heyman was on Raw in the summer of 97 a couple times. And I didn't understand, at the time, I didn't understand why WWF was promoting ECW on Raw. I had no clue that Vince McMahon had a deal with Paul Heyman at the time. Or Vince paid ECW over $500,000 basically to, when Paul Heyman was done, I guess, getting the talent in ECW over, it was agreed with Vince that Paul Heyman would send a couple guys to WWF when they became big stars in ECW, and when they were ready for the big leagues, Paul Heyman would send them to WWF. WWF took a lot of ECW talent, and ECW, if you think about it now, ECW was like a minor leagues to the WWF. Because in 99, Taz was their world champion in ECW, and he was really over. He was their world champion. Well, he left and signed with the WWF in the summer of '99. And then after Taz leaves, you have the Dudley Boys, the most over controversial, most over heel tag team in wrestling history at the time. You have the Dudley Boys, who were huge stars in ECW, and they really, really helped ECW get over. Anyways, the Dudleys and Taz were a huge part of ECW, and they both left in 1999 in the summer to go to the WWF. So that hurt ECW a lot, but they rebound and didn't hurt them that much because Paul Heyman still created different and more stars after Taz and the Dudleys left. Paul Heyman still was creating newer stars and getting them over. Anyways, a lot of stuff happened in '97. So I'm gonna be doing a lot of videos about 1997 because I have 3 ECW pay-per-views to talk about and some other ECW shows that were big in '97 that I'll talk about. They were not pay-per-views, but they were big events, big shows from the ECW arena, like Born to Be Wired '97, where Terry Funk defended the ECW World title against Sabu in a barbed wire match. It was really violent and it was brutal. It was hard to watch towards the end when Terry Funk and Sabu both got tangled up in barbed wire, and somebody had to cut with wire cutters. Somebody had to cut Terry Funk and Sabu out of the barbed wire so they could get free of it. And you had Jerry the King Lawler show up in the ECW arena and invade ECW in the summer of '97. And Jerry Lawler teamed up with Rob Van Dam and Sabu, and they beat the crap out of Tommy Dreamer and the Sandman. And then Jim Cornette appeared in the ring, and he beat the crap out of Tommy Dreamer with his tennis racket. And somebody that, I think it was Jerry Lawler, with the Singapore cane, slammed it into Tommy Dreamer's balls and popped one of his testicles. One of his testicles burst because of Jerry Lawler doing that cane shot to the testicles. So a lot of stuff happened in '97. It was a great, great year in wrestling. Wrestling was on a roll in '97. It was really popular. And in '98, it would get even more popular. But '96, my thoughts on '96, it was a great, great year in wrestling. We finally got some good storylines and damn good entertainment. We had Stone Cold winning the King of the Ring, and the NWO started. So '96 was a great year. The first 6 months of '96 was not very good. The only good thing that happened in the first 6 months of '96 was, in my opinion, Shawn Michaels winning the Royal Rumble and the WWF title at WrestleMania 12. The rest of the 6 months was pretty boring. And then from June '96 to the end of '96, it was pretty damn entertaining, especially in WCW. They were really entertaining on Nitros and pay-per-views. They were really good from June until the end of '96. WCW was great. And in my opinion, they were number one. And they were kicking the WWF's ass. In storyline-wise and pay-per-view-wise and just entertainment-wise. Because when you watched Nitro after the NWO storyline started and Scott Hall and Kevin Nash came in, And then Hogan was revealed as a third man. After that, WCW just got better and better every week. And you did not know what the hell was going to happen. You didn't know what to expect. And that is always great and awesome as a wrestling fan when you're watching. And you don't know what's going to happen. And you do not know what to expect. That's what WCW was. From June 96 until the end of the year, they were great. Now I'm going to talk about the Pro Wrestling Illustrated winners from 96. Some of the winners of the wrestling awards from Pro Wrestling Illustrated. Wrestler of the Year in 96 was The Giant. He was okay. He improved in the ring after winning the world title from Ric Flair on Nitro. So he improved, but I wouldn't have gave him the Wrestler of the Year. I would have gave it to Shawn Michaels. Anyways, the Giant wins, and Shawn Michaels was the runner-up for Wrestler of the Year. Tag Team of the Year in 96 was Harlem Heat. The runner-up was the Smoking Guns. Match of the Year for 96 was Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart. Very, very well deserved. They deserved it. Their Iron Man match was epic. Feud of the Year in 1996 was Vince McMahon versus Eric Bischoff. I don't think they were not in a feud. They were just running two of the major wrestling companies in the United States. But the feud of the year should have been WCW versus WWF because they were in a war. Runner-up for feud of the year was Ric Flair versus Randy Savage. Most popular wrestler of the year for 96 was the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. Runner-up was Macho Man Randy Savage. Most hated wrestler of the year for 96 was Hulk Hogan. Well deserved. When he turned heel, he was really hated as a heel. And it was great to watch Hogan be a heel. And not do the red and yellow Hulkamania stuff, because that gimmick was dead in 96. Nobody wanted to see it anymore. A runner-up for most hated of the year was Goldust. Most improved wrestler of the year for 96 was Ahmed Johnson. Runner-up was Chris Benoit. Inspirational wrestler of the year for 96 was Jake the Snake Roberts. Runner-up was Jushin Thunder Liger. Rookie of the year for 1996 was The Giant. The runner-up was Steve McMichael, Horseman member, when he joined the Horsemen at Great American Bash in 96. This video was the year in wrestling 1996, my final video for 1996. I hope you enjoyed. If you watched any of my videos about 96, I hope you enjoyed them. This is the last one about 96, and obviously not many people watch my videos because a lot of them, I only got one fucking view. So obviously nobody's fucking watching. That's okay. I'll continue to do my videos, and maybe nobody's watching because they're too long. That's probably a reason. Because they're too long. Anyways, this was the year in wrestling 1996 I think part 6. I think. I could be wrong. Whatever. I hope you enjoyed this video. Follow me on Twitter at TNAWWE Guy if you're on Twitter. And if you know me from Twitter and you already follow me, thank you. And if you watch this video, thank you. Or any of my past videos, thanks for watching and supporting me and watching some of my videos. Bye for now, everybody.